Welcome, everyone. This is a response, my opinion piece for February 24th, 2020 Township Supervisors meeting that was held at the Reading Country Club. And there were a lot of things that went on that were important, but I'm going to focus on the major topic, which was the Reading Country Club. And under old business, they listed this as a follow-up discussion on the RFQ submission for the Reading Country Club and determination of a long-term plan. And specifically, they said they were going to address the comments that were received at the town hall meeting and discuss a plan for the property going forward. Well, as you listen to this video, I don't see where they talked about any of the comments that the 30 or 40 people made at that town hall meeting. They were not brought up, they were not discussed, because Mr. Speece invited Mr. Larry Hirsch to take up most of that time to present information that he presented in the past. You will see a slide later on that I talk about the November 25th, 2019 meeting where Mr. Larry Hirsch and High Associates presented their information regarding the RFQ that was executed last year. So that's one slide you can look forward to listening to. Also, there will be a second slide where I talk about some township statistics based on information from the 2010 census and the Census Bureau's estimates of the 2020 population. And I'm presenting this because there is a huge conversation going on next door. One of our supervisors who, opposes what we're doing with the country club, he and a few other of his group, he's got about 5 people, including himself, that will attack you if you say something positive about the plans that the rest of the supervisors have, and they try to diminish the idea that this is a good asset for our community. Of course, you know my position. I disagree with everything that this person says. This supervisor, unfortunately, is one of those types of people whose ambition is higher than his abilities. So, and you'll see in this video, it's very clear where when Mr. Speece gets a little lost or doesn't know what to do, he'll look over directly at Mr. Cusadist for direction. And this is a real problem for me because I don't believe that this is the guy that we should depend on to be our leader. He has proven to us that he cannot lead. I've got a list of over 14 people that he's intimidated and attacked over the past year. And we know he's made a lot of bad decisions. We know he's the guy who seconded the motion to kick Viva out and started the debacle that we have with the liquor license that's costing us over $4 million. And let's not forget, as long as the food and beverage and banquet business is closed down, we continue to lose money. So that $4 million isn't fixed in stone. It's growing. He was also involved in the federal lawsuit debacle that cost us $260,000. And there's probably more. I'm still digging into it. The point is that he is a disaster to our community. And he continues to attack people like myself consistently. And I'm just expressing an opinion and trying to be a positive point of light in this community so that we move forward. And I'm also trying to inform you on what's going on. The transparency that they claim they have in this community is not transparency. It's a cloak of darkness, actually. And if you pay attention to what I'm presenting and what I'm saying, I'm hoping you'll see the same thing that I see. So a couple other things about this presentation. I just want to note that Mr. Hirsch was not listed on the agenda. He was invited by Mr. Speece to come and talk. I don't know if it was an afterthought after the agenda was made or what, but he spoke starting almost over 30 minutes he spoke, which is a big part of this meeting, and this is why it runs late and long. And I'm concerned about, Larry, I don't dispute his qualifications in the golf area. He's an expert. There's no question about that. But the golf course isn't our problem right now. The guys we have hired that work for our community are doing a bang-up job on the golf course. It made money this year. It will continue to make money if we let those guys work it. We need to give them some money in 2020 to make significant improvements to the golf course. They could do that. We could do it internally. We don't need to go outside. But what we need to do is we need to get something going on the food and beverage and banquet business. Now, Mr. Speece may be an expert on golf, but he knows very little about fine dining. And we do not need Larry's services for the restaurant part. We should keep them separate. Let the golf course do their thing. Let the restaurant business do their thing. We definitely do not want to hire someone to manage it for the township. When we do that, then we're on the hook for prevailing wages, unions perhaps. It would definitely cost us way too much money. We need to develop a program where we're going to lease it to someone who will run it for us. And I have a bunch of ideas related to that. I'm not going to go through them here because I don't think it would help. Our supervisors are closed off. They've closed their mind off to anything that I might have to say about it. And that's pretty apparent. You can watch and see how Mr. Speece loves to cut me off. He looks at Cusadist. They're both looking at their watches. I spent a lot of time informing myself on what's going on historically and current events. I read everything I can about what's going on. I'm probably more up to date than most people because I'm retired. You're working, you're taking care of your business and your family, and I'm working for you. So I don't think that Mr. Hirsch is the guy that should be involved in this. And you'll see Michelle Gilbert, who interrupts everyone and suggests that, well, we should do this, we should do that, we should pass a motion to have Mr. Hirsch do this. And she's working the supervisors into the direction she wants them to go. In fact, what happens is, as you watch this, they'll get so confused. I think there's one motion they had on the table that they never voted on. And then you hear Mr. Cusadis' wife yelling from the peanut gallery about everybody voted yes, and you'll hear Mr. Speece say, well, there were 2 abstentions. So I'm afraid that the old regime, again, I'll say this, is still in charge. And the positive thing is I think the 3 new supervisors are slowly getting it. They're starting to exert their influence as a group, and this is what they need to do. The collective experience to handle this particular property, I don't think is on the board. They need to talk to people, and sometimes you can talk to consultants and experts in the field of golf, in the field of restaurant business, and you don't have to spend a lot of money. They'll be willing to talk to us about these things. And I think that one of the things that we need to do is hold off on hiring anyone like Larry Hirsch or any other organization. Mr. Hirsch said he'll send a proposal to us. That's what ended up when this mess came up about the motion that never was or never voted on. And I think he made a point near the end there of his dissertation, which I agree on, and I was thinking the same thing, and that is the very, very first thing we need to do before we do anything else is we need to evaluate all the issues that require capital spending. And I think we're going to have to spend quite a bit of money on this. And that relates to what we need in the golf course in terms of fixing the golf court paths, fixing the bunkers, fixing the greens, which apparently are shrinking, fixing the bridges if we need work on that. I think we need a net to protect 422 traffic. So there's a lot of issues. We need to quantify and identify what they are and determine what kind of money we need to spend to fix this. The other one is the clubhouse. I think we need to go over the clubhouse with a fine-tooth comb and determine every single bit of capital expense that we need to incur to fix that up and get it in a tip-top shape. This is the very first step before we talk about anyone leasing it or buying it. But we should not hire someone to manage it. We should lease it, and that's the end of it. Now, if the golf course doesn't work out, I'm proposing that we turn it into the Central Park of Exeter Township. Consider these facts. This last year, it cost us about $700,000 to operate the golf course. So our revenue was $10,000 or $20,000 higher than that amount. So we made $10,000, $20,000 profit. But if we turned it into a park, we could save $600,000, cut our expenses by $600,000. We'll use the other $100,000 to maintain the park and do the things that we need to do with the park, but it would be much less costly for us. We wouldn't need to hire a golf pro, someone who's an expert in golf course management. We wouldn't need all that equipment, special equipment in some cases. We certainly wouldn't need to manicure the greens and mow the grass in certain ways. So we could, as a park, it would be an excellent addition to our community. But that's if we can't get the golf course and the banquet facilities and the food and beverage business up and running. I think we should slow down. We should identify the different steps that we need to take and get a real professional opinion and advice from experts in fine dining. I don't think we want a restaurant that is like golf course related. Go see some of these restaurants that are run by the golf course. They're not exactly your finest dining areas. We have a great opportunity. Let's use it to our best advantage. And I think that we need to take our time. And our Board of Supervisors, if you watch this video of the meeting on February 24th, you will see that they look very confused. Very, very confused, and that concerns me. There's no working committee, which I think should be formed. Right now, Michelle Gilbert, Michelle Kircher, and Greg Galtier are supposed to be on the committee that's going to work on the clubhouse, the food and beverage, and the banquet hall. I think they need to get qualified members of the community, business people who've done this kind of things before, are familiar with it, and we start working on the plan. And it's my hope that perhaps they'll take my advice. I don't know if they will or not. It remains to be seen, but if they don't follow this thing in a logical progression, I'm afraid that it's going to be another boondoggle that costs us taxpayers enormous amounts of money. We've already paid Larry Hirsch and the other company lots of money to do this RFQ that resulted in basically nothing. And according to Larry, we still don't have a plan, and he's hoping that they'll hire him to develop the plan. On the golf course, that's fine, but in a restaurant, I say, no way. You can't have him do that. So I hope you'll enjoy my two slides that I'm presenting and my opinion piece here, which is basically proceed with caution and with common sense. And enjoy the two slides and the video coming up. Thank you. On November 25th, 2019, Hall Associates and Larry Hirsch presented to the Board of Supervisors all the information regarding the RFQs related to the Reading Country Club and the golf course. Larry attended the February 24th meeting and summarized some of the information that he presented at this November 25th meeting. And one thing that you'll hear here is that High Associates was hired to market our Reading Country Club, and they actually subcontracted it to Larry Hirsch. And you'll see that as you watch this video, which is available at my YouTube channel. Just copy and paste into your browser that information, and you'll be able to watch it. It's about 42 minutes long, starting at timestamp 34 minutes, 32 seconds. Or you can go and watch it at exeterunited.com. Some of the things that you'll find out, I just want to hit on a couple highlights. There were 3 developers that were interested in purchasing it and 1 golf course operator. They sent out over 10,000 emails, and they used social media, and they targeted specific prospects, and they had an open house at one point in time. All of this activity eventually led to 20 respondents, but only 3 visits at the open house. And some of the problems that we're facing, according to Larry, is that maintenance on the golf course has been limited, so it diminishes the desire to play on it. And also, we've limited maintenance, and what happens when you do that is that you just delay and increase the maintenance costs later on. There are also some capital needs that are required: cart paths, bunkers, bridges, the greens. So these are some of the things that were negatives mentioned by the few people that were interested in our club. Also, Larry gave a little bit of background on himself, and there's no doubt he's an expert in golf course management. But I'm not so sure he's the fellow that we want to involve in our fine dining efforts. And I think that's what we need at the country club. We need a really nice fine dining restaurant in Exeter Township. And Larry is definitely an expert in golf, but I question his experience in fine dining and in the restaurant business itself. At some point he mentions that that golf course people do not see the benefits of the food and beverage industry, and it has a lower profitability. But at no time did they focus on the food and beverage business or the banquet facilities that much. Their focus was more on the golf course. And this is a good thing. I think we have a lot of opportunity here. He did talk about the fact that besides the capital needs, that we have competition with other public courses, but this may improve as some of those courses may be closed or sold to developers. He touches on the 3 people that actually visited the facility. The first one was Landscape Management, and he said they're the largest golf course management company in the world. They're experienced in food and beverage, but again, their concerns were about the capital investment involved in bringing it up to good condition. The second one was Ron Jaworski Golf. He's got 7 golf facilities. He's experienced at turnarounds and experienced in the food and beverage business. But he also indicated that Ron Jaworski Golf felt that the investment was too high to operate for his business interests. Number 3 was Research Golf Advisors from Allentown. They run the Homestead Golf Club. They are the only ones that submitted some information, but oddly enough, they didn't submit any financials. So I have to be concerned about that, but they did submit a response to the RFQ. So I think from a standpoint of our golf course, we have the people already in place. They work for us who can do a lot of improvements over the next year if we give them the money to do that. And I think that's what we should do. We've got them in place. The golf course is profitable. Let's make some improvements on our own for this year and continue running the golf course the way we have. I think Dave Speece knows a lot about golf, and he can guide us in that area. And the fallback to the golf course is turning it into our public park. If we ended up doing that, we would cut expenses by about $600,000. Right now, the current level of cost to operate the golf course is about $700,000. And so what we do is we make about $720,000. So we have an annual profit of $10,000 to $20,000 a year. But if we turned it into a public park, we could probably eliminate $600,000 of cost. It would probably cost about $100,000 to maintain it as a public park, and that's a pretty good deal. But what we should be focusing on is getting someone who has great experience in fine dining and banquet facilities to turn the clubhouse around, where we make, in the past, we've made as much as $250,000 in cash flow to support the debt service. So I'm hoping the supervisors will take note of my comments, and if you agree with me, encourage our supervisors to maintain what we're doing on the golf course this year and focus on bringing the clubhouse up to speed and focusing on an individual that is experienced in fine dining. I don't think Larry Hirsch and High Associates should be involved in that phase of it. Enjoy this video. I hope you'll go to see the November 25th, 2019 meeting and the presentation by Larry and High Associates. Thank you. Yes, I'm posting this slide just to present a couple facts. I think on Nextdoor, people are getting very emotional. All kinds of information is being thrown out that is inaccurate, often misleading, and it's done by a small group of people who obviously are opposed to the decision that's been made about the Reading Country Club. But I wanted to throw some statistics at you that I hope will get you thinking about our situation a little bit and looking at it a little bit differently from the way that the 4 or 5 people on Nextdoor continually try to get everyone to believe. False information, false media, they are experts. But here are the numbers to consider. The estimated 2018 population in Exeter is to be 25,971 people. That's slightly up from the actual 2010 census. And we should note that of these people, 22% are under 18. So that leaves us with about 20,257 people who are over 18 and are of voting age. Now, we know that probably about half of these people don't vote. So we've got about 10,000 people that vote in the elections every year, sometimes slightly less. But we had over 200 people attend the recent town hall meeting to discuss keeping the Reading Country Club or what we were going to do with it. So when you divide that by the number of people that actually vote in this community and participate in what's going on, we had about a 2% turnout, and that's pretty good. So I'm pleased with that. I think you should be too. It tells us that people are interested in keeping the club, and that decision has been made. But there's some more interesting facts that we can look at. The 2010 census said that we had 9,847 households, and that the average value of these homes was $189,200. And this is the average between 2014 and recently 2018. And this data is available at the United States Government Census Bureau. So if you want to doubt my statistics, my information, please go to that website. Now, this $189,200 is not the assessed value for taxes. This is the value that they put on it for sale purposes. It's the actual gross value. So the tax number, the assessed tax number would be much lower. But for conservative purposes, let's use that number at $189,200. And what we would do is we would subtract this year the $50,000 homestead exemption. So we would be estimating the debt tax on the Reading Country Club for the average $139,200. And that debt tax right now is 0.00072 to pay off the Reading Country Club debt. That works out to $100 per year. And we know that this amount is overinflated, and it's an average. Some will pay less, some will pay more. But think about this. For $100, we can prevent more development, prevent rising school taxes, prevent highway congestion, prevent more schools built, prevent more teachers and pension costs. And we'll have preserved a open space area and end up with a fine dining facility that anyone could use. Everybody eats. Everyone likes to go out once in a while. So as far as I'm concerned, I would gladly pay the $100. It's a great deal for the whole region. It's a great deal for our community. It brings people into our community. This is a regional asset that provides multiple venues to our community and the surrounding communities. So let's applaud the 3 new supervisors who I think basically tilted the scales towards making this decision. And now we're no longer doubtful about what's going to happen. We know exactly what we're going to do. And for the last couple of years, they have been extremely indecisive. So here we are. We're ready to take off on a new path that I think will be a tremendous asset to our community.
I'd like to call to order the Board of Supervisors meeting February 24th, 2020. Please rise for the pledge of the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll take roll call. Mr. Gautier?
Here.
Ms. Kircher?
Here.
Mr. Saab? Here. Mr. Cusadist? Here. Mr. Speece? I'm here. Announcements.
See how the sharing of the microphone works here? All right, so we are happy to announce that we have set the date for the Easter egg scramble. It will be Saturday.
I can't hear you very good.
Sure. Is that better?
No, you have to hold it close to your mouth.
Want me to do it like that?
That's good.
Okay, so we have the Easter egg scramble. It's Saturday, April 4th, and that will be at 11 a.m. at the Trout Run Sports Complex. We do have a rain date because this is a weather-dependent event that is scheduled for the following Saturday. That's okay. And I wanted to let people know that like we did last year, we are going to be accepting food donations for the Extra Pantry. We'll be taking donations. Those who bring in canned or perishable items will get extra raffle tickets, as well all the raffle ticket proceeds will go to the pantries.
Very good. Public comments. Mr. Carmella. Oh, sorry. Oh, this is agenda. You're
Your answer.
John Carmelo.
Turn it on, turn it on.
I think it is on.
Is it on?
It's on. It's on.
It is on?
It's on.
I need to repeat that.
Kiss it.
John Carmelo, 3 Brookside Court. I have a question on the new business items 9 and 10. That we need to replace 3 servers and 12 computers because they no longer meet security requirements. I was under the impression security requirements were handled by software, not hardware. Is that incorrect?
Chief, do you want to answer?
So the servers that we're currently using are operating under Windows 2008 servers, so they need to be replaced. The computers that we currently have are about 13 years old, and they're reaching end of life. Microsoft will no longer support them anymore. Okay.
And I have to question the pricing for this hardware. $11,000 and change for a server, $1,875 for a computer. You can't read on terminals and tie them into the server.
We currently have the current contract with CTN. They priced the complete installation of the servers out for us, and that's the quote that they provided to us. We did receive a quote from another company that was very similar in price to theirs.
So you're saying those prices include some firmware conditions that CTN is going to provide?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Hughes.
I have several issues about the agenda. The first one is under old business, the discussion that's going to occur with the country club. Have the members supervisors who have acknowledged that they are members of the Reading Country Club, have they been authorized by the commission, ethics commission to discuss and make decisions on the Reading Country Club yet?
As we said at the last meeting, we brought that up with the Ethics Commission. They have 30 days to respond. It's only been 2 weeks.
So then is it prudent for everybody to discuss the RFQs of the Reading Country Club? In addition, it was mentioned at the town hall meeting that the 3 new supervisors may need more time to become more acquainted with the RFQs as well. It's not even a week since that meeting.
Regardless, I agree with them for the first time in my life. I actually agree with them. I don't think we're ready to look at everything. I think it's only been 2 weeks.
Okay, then my other 2 issues have to do with the appointment of Jen Savage as Berks County Tax Collection Committee Delegate and your decision to put her on the Police Pension Fund Trustee. We know that she is incompetent. The budget, although you will refuse to address it, is not balanced. There's numerous errors in it. And to put it gently as I can, if you continue to put people in positions where they're not qualified to serve in, you're going to cause this township further damage than what's already been done in the last 5 years. You've got to get competent people in these areas. And I assure you, she is not competent as a budget manager in the very lowest measurement of it.
Well, I absolutely disagree.
Yeah,
That's my opinion.
that's
All right, I'm
your
gonna stick to it.
opinion, and please keep your comments respectful.
They are. I think they're germane to this township. My concern about the way it's being run, I still do not have faith in our employees to be able to run this township, and I do not have faith in the board being able to supervise it at this time. Prove to me that I'm wrong.
Mr. Clark.
Bill Clark, 251 Stormwater Road, Reading. I want to thank the board for having a public meeting in the Reading Country Club. It's So a lot of things came out in that public meeting that I was not aware of. For example, we stated that Beaver is going to fail on its own. He's actually losing money and paying the staff out of other funds, but not from the regular country club operation. Two, our from a legal standpoint, he was involved in that fiasco. We would never ever be allowed to take a nickel from anybody in this township. I mean, seriously. They did not serve the township, they did not even serve the board correctly. Oh, yes, we have a company, now we're paying them. They started out for free for about 6 to 9 months or so. Now we're paying them to do a search to find clients, either to run the country club as a total standalone entity, or develop. We had one standalone, I think we had 3 companies who said they were going to develop it, or try to develop it. And lo and behold, one of the 3 companies who are going to develop it is a parent of the people you hired for a search. And they said, well, they got firewalls, they're totally independent. You people on these computers in front of you, are they your computers?
This is yours.
Your private computers? That's yours. How about everybody else?
This is mine. This is my.
No, the ones that are up.
Joe and I have.
This is my computer.
Okay. Well, I checked with them. They're not their own computer they use. And by the way, they're tied into their companies, parent companies, made free. You know how good that firewall is? Anybody that work for a company, they know people in IP and see how good it is in different divisions? It's not that good. Whatever the boss wants, he gets. And you're telling me you got people here, they're paying, and they don't know what's going on with the other competitors. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, you need to do your homework and check on this. I just walked up and asked them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Darcy Riley.
Dorothy Riley, 13 Craig Drive. Since I don't know what the discussion will entail about the RCC, it's very hard to discuss an agenda, as I've said before, to discuss an agenda item in advance. But I will say that my husband and I attended the township town hall meeting about the RCC, not only to express our opinion and hear what other residents have to say, but hopefully to get more information than we had before going into the meeting. I asked a simple question about whether the golf course proposal included a restaurant and event venue, and a quick summary of the other proposals, and was told to check the website, which turned out to be an act of futility until my husband contacted Mr. Speece and got a link to find it on the website. I think one of your first priorities should be changing whoever is handling your website, because I have never been on one that bad. Can't find anything. And even when you open it up, you should see when the meetings are. You shouldn't have to scroll way down the page to see the meetings. One of the, excuse me. I'll give you a quick summary from looking at it since my husband and I spent the time looking at the proposals. They could have given us, they could have given this little summary. The golf course the proposal does include a restaurant and event venue. The proposal from the builders at Exeter Commons gave no specifics at all about what they want to do with the property, but they are mainly in the business of strip malls, so I assume that's what they have in mind. The 2 others want to put lots of housing units, one a hotel and housing and retail, one possibly 55 and over. I checked out all their websites, and the housing units they have built look really nice, but are very expensive. So we will either get something that most in the area can't afford, or we will get lesser quality, and more traffic, and more services needed, and school issues, and higher taxes. Oh, excuse me. However, there is only so much that one can glean from looking at a proposal, so I certainly hope that before a final decision is made, and I don't know what you are going to do tonight, and unless these proposals are beyond fantastic, that you would be seeking more proposals, including for the golf course alone with separate restaurant event venue proposals, although I understand that might be tricky considering how Viva was treated with eviction by the police and subsequent legal action. I also hope that you will be physically checking out the golf course and developments if these are the main proposals that you're going to be looking at. I mean, several of you are golfers, so you should know. And I certainly hope that the overwhelmingly one-sided response you got at the town hall will be taken into consideration no matter what your preconceived plan for the RCC were. And in general, I would ask that town hall meetings be scheduled alternate weeks from when you have a meeting. People have lives.
Yes, thank you.
So,
It is tough for people traveling to get people in the same week as well, so we try. Thank you. All right, approvals. Minutes, February 10th, 2020.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Treasurer's report, January 2020. I'll make a motion to approve subject to audit.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in-
Well, I had questions.
Okay.
Is Jen here?
She is.
I just, I'm not sure when you look at the treasurer's report, what future receipts and expenses on the report means. Like the first couple pages.
They're the future budgeted revenues and expenses.
Oh, it's from the budget, okay, thank you.
And Jen, I noticed under the landfill host fees, there were budgeted 1.2 million. We've collected 1.1 in month one.
Correct.
Is everything front loaded, or we just maybe have some extra revenue coming in?
They prepay at the beginning of the year, the very large sum of those fees, and then as the year goes on, they decide whether they send us any more money based upon the tonnage. So we may get more.
But I was hoping it'd be a lot more.
It may be a lot more, it depends on how the
Okay, because that's, we're only 100,000 off the budget just based on month one.
And they gave us that number, $1.2 million last year,
Okay.
based upon their estimates.
Okay, thank you.
I
Hopefully will be very nice.
don't go yet. So unemployment compensation, that seemed like an awful high percentage early on in the year. Some of the line items were like at 50% or close to that. Do we have a problem with this? Or is there a,
You earn out of unemployment early in the year.
what's that?
You earn it out of unemployment early in the year.
Oh, okay.
There's a cap.
Is that how it works? Okay. That's it then.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you. Any further comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
I subject to audit also.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Disbursements.
Motion to approve the disbursements.
I'll second. Any discussion?
Disbursements, go ahead.
Just a couple, Jen.
Oh.
Sorry. Should have stayed up there.
Did you see?
One of the questions is about the server, but you took care of Mr. Carmelo, thank you. The Simone Collins, I know, or I'm sorry, Lizinski, the 45,000 for the recycling
Recycling.
seems very high.
That's based upon the bid that was approved last year.
Yeah, and obviously we'll need to keep an eye on that, and then.
That will not change all year, that's a
Yeah.
bid amount.
No, but I mean, for the future.
I think 2021, we got a serious discussion.
Right, for this year, it will not change.
And then just the black cipher, that's $3,000, that's a monthly fee. It just seems a little steep. I believe you said we're going to be looking at that down the road, whether or not it's feasible, viable, we even need it.
Yeah, there's a few of us who have been in discussions with Black Cipher and CTN and our insurance company actually to see if it's a necessary service.
Okay. Contractually, is it a month to month, Jen?
It is not.
No, so 1 year and it goes until the summer.
Till summer, okay. Thank you.
So we could look at someone after the summer.
We should start,
Yeah.
yeah, if we want to start looking at RFPs earlier, so we're prepared.
Any further comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Old business. Follow-up discussion on the RFQ submissions for the Reading Country Club. We had the town hall meeting last week. Went very well. We had a very good turnout, 180 people or so, I think.
177.
177. Close enough. I saved the dollar and no Mr. Howe.
We won the bet.
So I think, I think all of you that were at that meeting, you saw the supervisors did not make too many comments. We were there to listen, get the public comment. I think what we're planning to do today is to get the comments back from the supervisors and see if we're prepared to start to lay out, a path forward. We had comments on the RFQs that were basically in two categories. One was development, one was operation-wise. There was some discussion at that meeting, which I will comment on, of what the next step would be. So whatever path you choose, yes, you can go out and broaden that. If you choose to develop or you choose to run as an operation or clubhouse, you can then go out with an RFP, which follows the RFQ, and get additional submissions to consider. So you're not forced to choose one of the ones that are existing. So anyway, that was my thought. We'll let the other supervisors comment if you want to do a different process, but I was going to basically go around the room or around the board here and get comments on what the feeling is after the public discussion. We presented these back in November, so there was a time that they were posted on the website to review, and then of course we had the meeting last week. So following that, any volunteers? Mr. Stott? Would you like the microphone?
No, I think I'm fine without it. My stance has always been one that I feel that the Reading Country Club is an asset to the township, and my concern was, and I'm not one that's hell-bent that we need to run it. I just feel that, again, we're a better place to have the Reading Country Club in Exeter. My other concern is if in fact we would sell the property and we end up getting 10 cents on the dollar. So we then still have the additional debt that we'd be paying for, and we then do not have the revenue. Keep in mind, one of the things that I do see on social media that does bother me is that the Reading Country Club cost us $36 or $38 million in this round number. That's not the truth. We paid $11 or $12 million, which we could say was high or not. That was 15, 16 years ago. When you look at that type of a number, and we start refinancing, and we had issues in the past where maybe money wasn't used properly, and we start adding up what a total repayable is, I think all that's doing is just putting out a number to try to get everybody's blood pressure up, to be quite honest with you. I don't think it's the right way to go about it. What would we really owe if the club was marketed and run properly? Where would we be today? When you buy a house for $200,000, you don't say you paid $375 for it with repayable. It doesn't work that way. Keep in mind, there are about 2,500 municipal courses in the United States. And I believe the percentage was 15 or 17%. I'm not saying again that we have to, but it can be done. Allentown, Bethlehem, Jeffersonville, Bensalem, Overlook, just north, south, east, and west of us do it. And they are part of the community. One of the things that I firmly believe we need is to have the banquet services and the food and beverage back up running, if we are going to support it. If we choose as a community that we're going to sell it and pay the debt forever, then that's the decision we make. I don't think it would be the right one. There's a couple things too. I believe that the negative balances that are hanging over the Reading Country Club should be zeroed out. Legal fees that were spent that had nothing to do with the course itself, I think we should just zero them out. There's no way that the club can pay $1.5 million in legal fees off. So, and the other thing is to just something as simple as putting a picture on the website. When you go in there, you'll see the library or a baseball field and the trail. You know, it's one. No, it's not on the main. It's not.
It has its own website.
Well, I'm saying when you go on to Exeter Township, a picture of the Reading Country Club should be there. So,
Invitation, it's fine.
John, I'm not talking to you.
Invitation.
Okay.
Just record.
Well, you're wrong. You can pull right up now. The bottom line is, I feel that if we truly do reach out and talk to these other townships that have golf courses, and we make a determination, we're going to back it, we have a capital budget plan, and we do, it can be successful. So, that's my opinion.
I want to first state that I'm a member of Reading Country Club. I'll ask our solicitor. That shouldn't preclude me from making comments, I don't believe.
No, oh, sorry, I'm not the solicitor.
No, I would agree with you. It should not
Okay.
preclude you from making comments.
All right, my feeling is it should stay a golf course. I don't think there's any question the community supports it. We've had, now since I've been around, I can recall 3 town halls, and every time we do a town hall, we get the same result. It seems like certain people want to keep doing town halls till they get the result they want. I took notes at the town hall. We had 44 different people speak. 39 were in support of the golf course. You look at last year, Derek and Brian provided excellent leadership. We made $10,000 in spite of so many obstacles. We don't have a restaurant. There was a motion to close the course. No marketing. It wasn't even in our own township newsletter. Not on the website. We took down the sign that was on Route 422. Failed to recognize all the positives going on at the golf course. Yet, they still made a profit without a restaurant. That to me is very significant. I agree with Joe that this 38 million number is very misleading, and I think it does a disservice to the community. The one comment that really resonated with me that I kind of thought was the new argument was the person who said that retail is dying. And I believe that's true. You know, more and more people are shopping online. And the problem, if you say golf is dying and retailing is dying, if golf dies, we still have open space if this remains a golf course. If retail dies and we developed it in some way, then what we have is another set of empty buildings. And I just think that would be a huge mistake. So in my opinion, we should just pursue Reading Country Club being a golf course, and we take a look and get a good restaurant in here, because people clearly want that as well.
Michelle?
I believe from the first time the supervisors bought the Reading Country Club that it was going to save all the acres. We do not have a large area like this. If it would have been developed, again, it would have been 3 new schools, it would have been 600 townhomes or apartments, and the mess. We all know how congested it is out there now. And the worst thing to do would be to put more homes on it and raise our school taxes. And Greg's right, if it doesn't go as a golf club and this clubhouse, which I'm sure it will, we always have a open space, like a central park, and open space is being lost every day. And I can see that we need to keep this. We don't want more congestion. And I think everybody that I've talked to wants to keep it. There's going to be plenty more development. There's lots of things that are on the books for years, and they can do, but let's leave that area the way it should be. Thank you.
I'll be nice. I won't correct the guys too much, but it had some false statements, but we'll let it go.
Can't hear you.
$36 million, $36 million.
I would prefer you not let it go. You just said I made false statements, but they don't indicate what they are.
Greg, it's my turn. Please be quiet. Number one, it is on the website.
John, we can't hear you.
Okay.
Please use the microphone.
Sure. It was on the website, it was in the newsletter, so I just want to correct those facts. You and I emailed, remember, you and I sent an email, and it was on the newsletter. Yes, it was. Okay, but the second, third, fourth, it was.
Yeah, the first newsletter, it wasn't.
It was. When I became chairman, we got it on the newsletter, just want to correct that. The $36 million is, you're right, Joe, it's not to buy a house, but the reality is, at the end of the day, this is going to cost us $36 million. Right or wrong, indifferent. I've been saying it should save green space. Golf is different to me. I don't care if it's a big park. I agree with Michelle. Make it a big park one day. If it's a golf course, I'm fine with that. I think the best part of the meeting was the chef that I brought. I thought he can bring a lot of value. I think we should let the committees play out. I know Greg and Michelle are going to look at the restaurant. Joe and I are going to set up a meeting in a couple of weeks for the golf. I think we should let them play out and then decide our direction. And I do think we need to think outside the box. I know the 2 holes over there, I've heard many, many people say the 2 holes golfers don't like to go across the street. That's what I hear from many, many golfers tell me. So maybe we develop those 2 holes into something. I know, Dave, that's your backyard, but the reality is do those 2 holes and then make this 18 holes the rest of the way. I think we need to think differently, because we can't just go down the same rabbit hole of beating our heads and trying to make something work. And if it does stay a golf course, then I'm okay, as long as it's managed not by the township. Because I think government's proven that it can't do anything right. Get another comment?
And one other thing I did want to reference is, as we talk about the debt that does exist, right now with on the county township bill, it's right about the number where it will cover the debt service. However, once you get to 2025, 2026, 2027, it will not remotely come close based on the current millage and what we have. Just as an example, in 2015, from 24 to 25, just the one debt service goes from 241,000 to 624. The next year, the 2016 goes from 147 to 316, and the 2018 bond is, my eyes are getting worse. In 2015 to 2016, it goes from 116 to 316, and then we have a balloon payment of $2.4 million the following year. So when we take a look at those numbers, it's also something we have to consider as far as the assets that we are carrying in a balance from the sewer fund. Is it something that we then do take a look at and retire that debt? And again, I'm not saying that we do that. I do believe that there are things that we need to discuss because 2024, 2025 will come here very fast.
Keep in mind, Joe, we did have to raise the debt service last year too. Because of the misappropriation.
Can't hear you. We cannot hear you.
The $2.8 million, we did have to raise the debt service last year.
And that was part of the tax.
Yes.
But again, too, these all have been refinanced, which again, additional costs. I don't know whether money was taken back out, but the bottom line is a lot has changed since 2004, 2005. That's it.
Thank you. And Jen, did you want to comment on that? I thought anyway, taxes, I thought the debt service, we're going to have a surplus and it will even out, and it does cover long-term?
It should, yeah. The $2.2 million payment was never expected to be paid out of the debt service. It's either going to be refinanced or paid out of these proceeds. The full payment.
No, I understand. And I understand, I appreciate that. The bottom line is we still have to come up with the money one way or the other, but it is on the debt schedule, so we will have to address it.
Thank you, Joe. So thank you for everyone that came to the meeting last week. There's been a lot of public comment, not just over the past year, over the past 15 years. Running a business, I think is not easy, especially when you change your thought process or change your model year in and year out, and you don't have a long-term plan to operate. So in a couple stretches, we had 2-3 years where we went in the same direction, but it seemed like every single year we'd be at the same point, end of the year, what are we going to do next year? And it's very hard to manage anything with that. So we embarked on a process a little over a year ago, the RFQ process, and throw up all the options we could gather. What could you put on the property? Could you do Disney World or Costco or remain a golf course? We gathered them, so it was a painful year. We gathered all that stuff, and now we reviewed them. What they boil down to, in my mind, when you look at the debt service, when you look at what we overpaid for the property, but that's water under the bridge. There's none of the options that have been presented or have come up that are going to erase that debt. So we should, we have debt for a lot of things. We acquire land, we acquire different things, and, that's going to be taken care of with the debt service, and there's no magic bullet that's going to erase that. So we should enjoy the property. My feeling, I think we heard that from a lot of people, certainly last week. I think we should learn from our past mistakes. It is a learning process. 2005, we made a choice. And I think a lot of people pointed this out last week, not to have this property develop. It's the center of our community. So I don't see that, that has changed, very recently, not wanting to develop that property. But, over the past 15 years, we have learned a lot. We have leased a clubhouse. We have had a management company. We have learned that these three businesses are synergistic to each other. You can't have someone running the restaurant that doesn't like golfers. You can't have golfers that don't like people running the restaurant. Banquet facilities, you have to have a long enough plan that people can book out 2 years for a wedding, knowing the place is going to be open. So that's where I'm at. I heard all the public comments. I think putting a long-term strategy in place, learning from our past mistakes. Joe made a very good point, learning from our neighbors. I have called some of the other township managers and other board members that have municipal golf courses, and they're thrilled with having that as part of their community. It's one of the parks, and they refer to it as a diversity of opportunities. Not everyone plays soccer, not everyone plays basketball, not everyone plays golf, but you have a diversity of activities for your residents. So I truly believe, Mr. Hirsch is here tonight. He could not be here at our last meeting. He was the one that went out and solicited, some of the options for running it as a club, restaurant, banquet facility. So he is here to give us some comments later, and I may engage him in that. But, from my perspective, optimizing from what, with the help of our neighbors, with what we know from the past mistakes we made, getting it right. We fine-tuned, sharpened our pencils last year, and then, Brian, Derek, and others did a fantastic job running the golf course without, with one arm tied behind their back. And we know many people will not come here because they can't get a meal or other things. So I'm way over my 3 minutes. But I have the microphone. So I think we should really move forward and focus on optimizing this business. I think, we should broaden our perspective. We have, a very, I have not been there personally, but, one of the RFQs was from a very knowledgeable family business that does very well with an entire operation. But I think Mr. Hirsch put something very well last time he talked in November about, if you're a little broader and you know the direction you're going, people will take you serious and more people will come forward. So in my opinion, I think it stays that green space no matter what. Whatever happens with the business down the road, it's still green space. Once you develop it, it's gone. So that's my opinion. So I'm open for certainly options here, from the board. John, you made a comment you were not ready. There's two paths here. One is to go down the path of optimizing the business, and one is development path.
Well, I'm no development, but.
So that, if that is, I would.
But I think we should open the RFQ for the other golf courses.
RFP.
Yeah, RFQ, we did the RFQ.
So then my suggestion, then there should be a motion to move forward down that path.
I'll make that motion to go forward with the RFP process for someone to manage the whole property as a synergistic.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
My question would be is, would you and Greg be in a position to vote without having that answer back from the...
Well, I would abstain just to say.
Well, we can abstain, but, I would retract it later, but I mean, we were not asked to submit anything to the ethics committee. I mean, Greg brought it up, thought it was the right
You
thing
voted
to
on
do.
this all the years.
Yeah, I mean,
We've been
I
supervisors.
try to be impartial, try to listen to the public. I don't feel I am skewing things for my self-worth, but I mean, you have a motion, you have a second.
Could I comment on that?
You met.
I went to a training for a new supervisor, and it was brought up at the training to be safe. That's why I sent the letter. I do not believe it's a conflict of interest. But what also was said is if there were not 3 votes, then I would be able to vote even if there was a conflict of interest. So if I'm comfortable abstaining for now, and then if we don't have 3 votes, then I believe I would be allowed to vote based on that training.
So we have a first and second.
So training is good.
Training is good.
Take the vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And then
All
I'll
those
abstain.
opposed? I'll abstain as well. I will follow Mr. Galtier's lead on that. Thank you.
Could I bring up one other thing, though? I'm not going to
Yes.
make a motion, but I also think we should do RFPs to just run the restaurant. I don't think we should limit ourselves to one set of options. We have 2 strong golf professionals here who should be able to work with restaurant if the parameters are set up correctly from the beginning.
I agree, and I'm going to invite maybe Mr. Hirsch, just a little question and answer here. One, and I will try to rephrase the way I think you said in November, is what stuck in my mind was one sentence. It said if you go forward with this, which where we are going, I think you phrased it that many more people would come to the table if you open your minds to lease and or manage all or part of this property and those three businesses, you would get a broader perspective.
That's, excuse me, that's accurate. Let me tell all of you who I am. My name's Larry Hirsch. I'm the president of Golf Property Analysts. We're located outside Philadelphia in Conshohocken. And we are a golf course consulting, appraisal, and brokerage firm. We have been working with my associates previously in the marketing of the property as a lease opportunity. And what we learned through that experience is that there is considerable interest in the golf management community in Reading Country Club. It's a property that has a kind of neat history. It's generally regarded as a desirable golf facility. And of course, it has the food and beverage facilities that are really quite extensive. They might actually be too big. But that being said, I don't think there's any doubt that there's interest. I think where the biggest obstacle was in our marketing efforts was that A, we were limited to marketing a lease opportunity, and B, there was no commitment or definition on the township's part as to what capital improvements the township might have made to make the lease more desirable to a potential lessee. So what I suggested was it November, you said?
Yeah.
What I suggested in November was that some of the feedback that we got was that if either the township were able to make some sort of a capital commitment, not necessarily all at once, it could be over a period of time, or if the township were willing to work with a potential management company on a management contract basis, that we would probably have more interest. And so what I suggested was broadening and making more flexible the RFP than what it was. And I know that the question was also raised to me at that meeting. And if you want me to shut up, just tell me. The question was also raised to me at that meeting about what my thoughts were about whether Reading Country Club could be successful, which is, I think, something that everybody's probably interested in. And I will say that I have not done a detailed market study for the property. And that being said, I think there is certainly some competition out there. There's other golf courses, some of which may or may not be here in the foreseeable future. But I also think that Reading Country Club really hasn't been effectively marketed and managed over the past however many years. So I think that it would probably be a good idea to, first of all, do that market analysis, as well as determine what the physical needs are for the property. Let's take a look at, how, I don't remember how old the irrigation system is, for instance. I don't know when the last time there was any, excuse me? 2 years. That's what I thought wasn't that old. Let's take a look at things like cart paths and bunkers and greens and see how they're functioning and draining and making sure that there's not going to be major problems with that sort of stuff. Let's make sure that, the equipment fleet is adequate and all those sorts of things. And then put the property out to management companies and say, okay, here's what we're going to give you to manage. We'll pay you to do this. We'll get proposals from these people. Hopefully there'll be some incentive-based proposals. But I think one of the things I happen to like about broadening the RFP process is that not only can you express what the township's goals are, but you can also get the feedback and the input from the potential management companies as to what their vision is for the property. And I think that's really important, because these guys are out there operating multiple golf courses all over the place. They're, I would identify, and I would think it might be part of my job going forward to identify for you a variety of management companies, some of which we've already brought in the original process. But get a whole bunch of ideas to kind of figure out what's the best way to make this place sing. And, that's been my experience. And I'd invite any questions from either the board or anybody.
You have a question, Larry? You want to go first? What are some things you could do? I know we talked about the snow thing, like the cross country. Like, we got to do other things here besides golf. Like, what are some ideas that I know you kind of told me something that you want to tell them?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that is one of the inherent problems of this or any other golf course is that golf courses are kind of an inefficient use of land. But you've pretty much decided that you guys want to keep this a recreational facility or recreational property. That being said, there's a lot of ways to use golf courses. You can have winter sports on the golf course when there's snow on the ground. You can have fireworks. You can have, at night, you can have community cookouts and other recreational activities. So it's not limited to just playing golf. And what we would hopefully do is go identify some of those things that other places are doing more effectively to use that real estate asset more efficiently. I also want to say, and I'm not saying I'm an advocate to keep it as a golf course or not to keep it as a golf course. I'm a real estate guy first. And my job is kind of what we call highest and best use. That being said, the township has an asset here that they want to use recreationally. So within the world of recreation, or even within the world of golf, we want to say, what's the highest and best use within those parameters? And see how it can best be used by the most people with the best economics. But I also want to say that, one of the things that I see here, and I hope nobody in the township takes this as an insult. But one of the things I see here is what I've seen in so many golf courses and so many clubs over the last 20 years, including, in fact, I'm originally from Harrisburg. I grew up and lived there until 10 years ago. And my club, how many of you are golfers out here? Okay. Anybody ever hear Blue Ridge Country Club in Harrisburg? Okay. I grew up and was a member there my whole life. And 3 years ago, I took my boys up there to play the last round. And I can tell you that even though I don't live there anymore, and even though a lot of people kind of say, oh, what the heck. After the course closed and it started being developed, the entire township became very, very sentimental about Blue Ridge. They had a thing at the township where they showed videos of different events and whatever that had occurred at Blue Ridge, because it was just what everybody here said earlier. It was an asset to the community. And that was a private club. That wasn't even owned by the township. So I think I think you've made potentially a good decision. And if we examine the economics and formulate the right plan, hopefully it can be not only a recreational asset, but also an economic asset.
Mr. Hirsch, I have a question. I played the...
Go ahead.
He asked for questions.
I know. I'm calling you. I had a question for him too.
Go ahead. I've played golf in quite a few states in the United States and a few golf courses in Asia. And what I've noticed is that the best restaurants are separate from the golf management. They have really good, like 2-star, 3-star managers who manage this terrific restaurant. So I think the board right now has RFPs or RFQs out for someone to manage both. What's your recommendation if we really want a top-notch restaurant here today?
The short answer to that is yes, but yes to finding out what various scenarios can do. Meaning, I am not in any way, shape, or form opposed to the idea of splitting up the golf operation and the food and beverage operation. That happens a lot. There are a whole bunch of situations where, people that own golf courses will lease out the food and beverage operations because they don't want to operate it. I think it would be easiest and potentially best for the township if the operator that were to come in here could operate both. Because there are golf operators, and I think that's who we should focus on. There are golf operators who are very comfortable with and successful at food and beverage. Yeah, there are, trust me.
We haven't been that lucky.
I understand that, but I don't think that's been focused on either.
Larry, maybe I could piggyback on that question. Mine was going to be, when you look at Jeffersonville, Ben Salem, very nice clubs, Allentown, Bethlehem Municipal, Overwood. They have different models, I think. I think it's probably, I don't know, it's a mixture of...
Well, that's exactly why I said yes to a variety of scenarios, because they're all different models, and they're all different facilities, and they're all different locations, and, it's not one size fits all. And I think that it's really important, it's easiest for the township to deal with one party. But if it's best for the township to deal with two parties, then let's deal with two parties. Who cares? You can do it both ways, and you can do it both ways very effectively. I happen to be very familiar with several management firms that are very, very skilled and adept at food and beverage.
So backing up, you basically, the RFQ process, Real Estate handled the development portion of it, which, went through where basically said the property was for sale and other things. You handled the RFQ process to look at golf operations, so kind of in parallel. So I guess my question is, I heard a couple things in your comments. The RFP process going forward, would you need a written RFP? Would you just piggyback on what we've already been doing to go and broaden the list?
Well, what I would like to do is work with you in developing the RFP so that we get something that is going to be, for lack of a better word, marketable to the broadest cross-section of potential suitors. Remember, what I'm suggesting here, and I think what I heard most people somewhat amenable to, is on one side, leasing the property, which would take all the risk off the township, but also probably throws into the township's lap some sort of capital commitment. Or a management agreement where the township hires XYZ golf company and says, here's X number of dollars a year in a management fee, we're going to pay you, and then for everything you generate over X number of dollars, we'll pay you an incentive for that. So the RFP has to have some flexibility, which I think is good, because while it may take a little more time to sift through and evaluate the proposals, and I wouldn't send the RFP to the world, I would send it to a select group of suitors. I think what you'll end up getting is something where you not only define what you're looking for, but to a degree, but you also get their ideas back as to how they envision the property operating most effectively and efficiently.
Very good. So I think there are a couple things here. First thing, I think, if we're moving this direction, we would need a motion to move forward with the creation of an RFP with Mr. Berks.
I'd like to see him send a written one in so we can discuss it before we approve one now.
Oh, yeah. I'm saying we're approving the preparation of the RFP. Is that what you mean?
Right, I don't want to vote on giving an RFP out. Giving an RFP out.
Or prepare a proposal for us to look at.
I think we need to discuss it further.
Other comments? how would you move forward? I mean, you could make a you could agree to prepare a sample RFP to give to us that we could comment on.
A sample, yeah, there's a lot, I'd find some samples and, share them with you, but to be honest with you, every situation is different, and the idea is that, we would have to, you people as a township have people that are used to putting together RFPs. I'm not an RFP guy, I'm a golf consultant. Okay, so what I would do is I would say, okay, let's sit down together and, come up with what are the rules and regulations you have to abide by in this process. And then we put that together and we say, okay, what are the things that are going to get us the best response from the marketplace?
Would it make sense, I believe Mr. Gautier and Ms. Kircher are on the clubhouse committee to work with Mr. Hirsch and get with input from some of us?
I don't mind working with him, but
I'm just trying to figure out.
either of us are
We need to have a
RFP.
plan. We need to have a plan.
Yeah,
We can get some examples to use, there's no doubt about that.
And I take it that this is not a newspaper ad. Mr. Hirsch has been in the business 40 years, so it's mainly phone calls and calling people. But
We have both committees, the golf committee and the restaurant.
right.
Let's do that.
We had a
That's true.
very,
You could each individually.
Okay, so can I make the recommendation that we consider a motion that you are asking the administration to have a service contract with Mr. Hirsch, and we can start working on that contract to begin with before we go any further? Is that what you're looking for, Michelle?
Well, I'm not looking to approve anything tonight.
I agree. Just, do you want to give us the direction to move forward to work with Mr. Hirsch to come together with an understanding?
I guess an understanding, just as long as nothing is approved tonight, I think we have.
Agreed. So we would just bring that forward for you to consider at a future date.
I'd have to put together a proposal for you. I'm not saying write me a blank check. That don't work that way. That'd be nice, but
Just professionals.
So it's a motion to instruct the administration to work with Mr. Hirsch on a professional services draft for the board to consider. Correct? Ed? Correct. Okay. All right, now who remembers that? Who wants to get it first? Repeat that again. All right, so it's a motion,
I will make a motion for the
administration,
administration to prepare,
and work with Mr. Hirsch
work with Mr. Hirsch on
professional services contract
Professional services contract.
for a draft. A draft. Very clear.
Because for those that weren't aware, Mr. Hirsch was actually working with Under High Associates before, not directly with us.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Yes, go ahead.
So I don't know, can I vote on this?
I would just abstain if the vote's not,
Okay.
just to be safe.
Did Dave make the motion then?
Oh,
You see what I'm saying?
Can I read that? I'll make the motion.
Yeah.
You're going to rescind that?
We're not, to get a proposal, so it should be a conflict.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not going to be.
I think the suggestion
Yes.
that what I do is simply prepare a proposal and send it to you, and then we go from there. That's probably the easiest way to do it.
And then we'll put that on the next agenda for the board to review.
The proposal.
The thing I don't want to see is us just stop because people want a restaurant. And we need to keep moving forward.
All right, so not a motion, we will instruct the administration to work with Mr. Hirsch on the draft.
First and second.
Okay, so we don't
Not a
need.
motion.
Mr. Hirsch, one more question.
Motion died.
Were you paid to come here tonight? No. Okay, you just came here on your own.
Mr. Speece asked me to.
Okay.
Okay, and you made a very good comment too about, no matter which direction you go, whether it's your own personal property or this property is a community property, that you need to have a plan of what you need to do, what needs to be done, both at the clubhouse. We've neglected the property a long time. What is the plan? How do you prioritize and what will that cost? I don't know, again, that we need to do that here, but that master plan, I think we already went down this road in the fall, October, November, and then we put the process on hold. We didn't select one, but we went through a process and we had multiple options for that. Again, you know, we could, every 2 weeks or every month, we could continue to chug down this path, or is it the time to revitalize and relook at those submissions?
I'm going to put together a proposal that has a bunch of phases in it, and hopefully they'll be in a logical order so that we're, you know, doing the right things in the right order. That's what I'm trying to accomplish for you, so that we, you know, spend money efficiently rather than inefficiently.
He said the words didn't count, but he didn't the restrictors.
What's
So
that?
on the record, we have an RFP, first by John Gonzalez and second by Joe Staub. We need to have that.
Can't hear you.
We didn't vote on
We cannot hear you.
So both died. I just want to note it for the record that both have died.
it. Okay.
Didn't hear a word you said.
I think we voted, that was voted on, because I abstained.
It was 3-0.
It was 3-0 with Dave and I abstaining,
Okay.
The first one,
the first one.
The
that was
RFP.
the article.
Now, that's an RFP, so I
Decision to keep the
think,
green space called.
Correct.
Yes.
Read back your minutes so that we're clear. I didn't get the motion.
Well, prior to that, I mean, you're talking about the original motion just to keep it green space. You have that one.
John made a motion,
Joe second.
and Joe second,
We both
to
abstained.
do an RFP for someone to manage the golf and the restaurant, or to put a proposal for golf and restaurant, the entire operation. And that was voted on 3-0 with 2 abstentions.
So we're standing with that item?
Well, that's the question. I'm just telling you what happened.
Everybody said yes on that.
It was 3-0.
Any direction from
Yeah, it was
the
3-0, and then it was all those in favor. Everybody said yes.
There were 2 abstentions.
It was 3-2.
Well,
The other 3, yes, that passed. Correct. I think we're good. Does
Okay,
anyone?
I think we're good.
so then you can go ahead with that RFP.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay.
Okay.
Who shall I address the proposal to?
You can give it to, send it to.
It'll be a consulting.
Well,
It'll be a consulting proposal, and I'll address it to you.
Correct.
Get on, okay, cool.
Thank you, Mr. Herschel.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, my question is related to, which would be a better profit motivation for the company that's sort of taking over? A lease arrangement with them paying a flat fee and the incentive is for them to make as much money as they can? Or for us to pay them to do it where I view perhaps there's maybe less incentive to be successful?
It all comes down to the perceived risk. And part of that perceived risk in a case like Reading is capital investment. Who's going to make that capital investment? And how much is going to be made, and, you know, all those kinds of things. There are often situations where capital investment is made by one party or the other, or sometimes a combination thereof, that is continuing capital investment. In other words, you know, as certain thresholds are met, more capital is invested, and things like that. I mean, it's not, there's no one size fits all, but it all comes down to the risk. I can just reiterate that when we were out there pitching the idea of a lease situation, I think most companies, given the capital needs of the property, perceive too much risk to get into it from a lease situation. So that's why one of the things that I will likely advocate is giving these companies kind of a choice, letting them know that one might be preferable than the other, to the other, but giving them the choice as to how they want to approach it. And I would suspect that some companies will come in and say, okay, here's our lease proposal, and here's our management proposal. You know, which would be a good thing. and, get some flexibility that way, get some interest from some of these companies that, we're interested in the other way. Again, one of the things that I think we might have to be prepared to do is be able to approximate, for lack of a better word, what the township's potential capital commitment might be able to be done. Yes.
And a related question. The one proposal that.
Yes.
He starts talking accounting, though, and I go, I'm out of it. The one proposal that they did get from Old Homestead, do you have any thoughts about that? And there wasn't much on the website. Do you guys know about whether they were willing to put the capital investment in?
Well, we never got that far.
Yeah.
Because what we really only did so far was ask for qualifications and statements of interest, not an actual proposal. So we would certainly go back to them and say, okay, guys, make a proposal.
Because they have opened a restaurant and.
I mean, there's a lot of people out there that have done what they've done, or that, have managed. I'm thinking of 4 or 5 companies right now off the top of my head that have managed 25, 50 courses or more, some over 100, that we want to get in here and see how they perceive this. Part of the game we want to play here with management companies is location. And what I mean by location is, where are their other courses? And do they own those other courses? If they have other courses that they manage or lease or something like that, that's one thing. If they own other courses, that's a different story, because you don't necessarily want somebody that owns the course down the street managing your course and stealing your customers. So that's something you have to be careful of. But we had a very successful experience with a power company in Pennsylvania, in central Pennsylvania, that owns a golf course, that we identified for them and solicited proposals for management of the golf course. And what we did is identify who we thought would be the 6, I think it was 6 or 8 most likely companies that said, okay, submit proposals and then we selected. And it was a fair, open, and efficient process, that it wasn't so broad that, somebody had to interview 60 companies or 20 companies, get confused. Plus, what I tried to do was bring in companies that I was familiar with and I knew as being reputable companies. And I'm talking about different sizes, small, medium, large, geographically diverse, not so geographically diverse. Well, I'm not making so well. Does that answer your question?
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Hurd. Any other questions?
We heard at the forum last week or the week before, whatever it was, that Ron Jaworski Golf came in here and looked at the place, and it was something like $4 or $5 million in repairs were going to need to get it to up to a standard. So knowing that they said $4 or $5 million, the reality is, once government gets involved, that number goes to 7, 8, or 9. How much money is this going to take? How much more money are we going to throw into this thing until we wipe our hands of it and say it's just a loser?
First of all, let me say that I never heard a number from Jaworski. I talked with Jaworski and they said that there was too much capital involved, but I don't remember them, actually developing an estimate or.
That was the number that was thrown out.
Yeah.
I have the video.
What's that?
I have the video on that, by the way. He does.
I said that?
No, someone mentioned it.
Oh, okay, I don't remember it.
Now at that meeting, High Associates.
Let's just bring the conversation back here, and
Were they,
Mr. Hurd, just maybe, I think you already kind of stated this, that will be part of the proposal in developing the master plan to determine what that investment needs are.
Right, that's exactly right. One of the things that we're going to propose is that, we get some people in here to help determine what that necessary investment might be, so that we have it defined by the appropriate people, and and that we don't end up having to pay twice as much because it's, you know, township.
Yeah, but you and High Associates were
Thank
at
you.
that meeting.
I think we gotta stop the side
Were you
discussions.
subcontracted by
We're gonna
them or
move
were they
on.
subcontracted by you?
Yeah, we need to move
I got
on.
one real small question, Dave. I
What
mean,
is it?
I'd like to know, when High Associates were there presenting it, I think they said that they subcontracted it to you or vice versa. Which way did that go?
They subcontracted to me.
Okay, so we sent out over 7,000 contacts, and we only got like 3 or 4 responses. How are we gonna do something different now? Because it sounds like the same players are still playing, and we still don't have a plan.
You're 100% right that the same players are potentially playing, but that's what we're going to do, is to A, develop a plan, and B, develop a plan that is more flexible and broader and hopefully more appealing.
But why do we hire
We need
High
to
Associates
move on.
and
We
they
can't just
subcontract
continue a
it to
side
you?
conversation, so we're gonna just cut that off. It wasn't a very quick question. We need to move on.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? I mean, there's a lot of side issues. I will summarize from back last fall over the past year. You know, we've talked about conservancies on the property, so you're not going through this every year. You know we need certain things to operate, that things are falling apart, such as golf carts. No, I think you're good, Lynn. Thank you. We talked about golf carts. Is there anything else any board member wants to cover tonight, or do you want to move forward?
I think that the committees start to do the work with Dave.
Okay. You good, everyone? Okay. Approve a resolution appointing Jen Savage as Berks County Tax Collection Committee Delegate. Thank you, Mr. Hirsch, for coming.
My pleasure, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we, with the departure of Mr. Granger, do need to appoint somebody to delegate to the Berks County Tax Collection Committee. This is something that we sit on jointly with the St. Lawrence Borough. The administration is recommending Jen Savage for this position.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Appointment of Drop Police Pension Plan Trustee.
In a similar fashion, we also need to appoint someone to the Drop Police Pension Plan as a trustee for the township. This is again due to the departure of Mr. Granger. We are asking that Jennifer Savage also be appointed to the pension plan trustee position.
Make the motion to appoint Jen Savage to the appointment of drop police pension plan trustee.
And just to clarify, this was typically handled by the manager, so this is a temporary appointment until...
That is correct.
I will... Doug? Second. Joe, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Approval of revisions to the Stormwater Quality Operations and Maintenance Manual.
Okay, with the sale of the wastewater treatment plant, this manual does need to now be revised. This manual is a requirement for our MS4 permit, and it provides an overview of the Highway, Parks and Recreation Department policies and procedure guides for its operations on how they affect stormwater within the township. We did provide a copy for the board to review.
I'll make a motion to approve the revisions to the Stormwater Quality Operations and Maintenance Manual.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Approve agreement with Simone Collins to prepare and submit DCED and DCNR parts grants applications.
All right, Mr. Chairman, this is a 2-for-1 sale here on grants. We do have 2 that we would like to prepare and submit. These are monies that would go towards repairs and renovations within our park program. These are 2 grants that we could apply for. One is with DCED, the other is with DCNR. We have used Simone Collins in the past. They have already prepared this material. It will be the same material that was submitted last year. So to do so would obviously make it a little bit easier and faster, and we have less overhead in trying to get this application done for the grant funding.
I have a question, I don't know. My first question is, I think I read that the actual submission is $100. The actual fee that you pay, whatever to submit, but yet they have it prepared from last year, but it's approximately $4,300 to resubmit it this year.
Do you want to talk on this topic?
They have the,
You want to
apply
get
for,
a petition?
kind of answer as best I can. We applied for DCNR last year, we did not apply for DCED. DCED is a more time-consuming process, it's a more challenging grant to get. But they've also, DCNR this year rolled out an entirely new application process, it's all online. So the paper application that they submitted for us last year has to all be manually input into the new system. They're not taking paper applications anymore. So while a lot of the work was done, some pieces of it will need to be redone, like letters from legislators and some pieces like that that can't be reused from last year. It's the same plans that we're trying to get the money for, but some of the process needs to be redone.
And maybe one follow-up question I had, I just thought about when reading this, that do we own the material that was used for the submission last year? And if we do own that, is that something that we can handle, or someone else can take that material that we own from the last year payment to apply?
Potentially, yes, it would still be quite time-consuming, and both of these applications are being done hand-in-hand, because if we get both, they can actually match each other, which would potentially reduce the amount of money that the township has to put out. Right now, we have to match, it's a 50-50 match on the DCNR application. So if we're successful in getting both, and Simone Collins, they're the expert on the process, the DCED application, like I said, would really require their level of expertise to even give us a chance of getting it.
Talk about the legislature.
Can't hear you.
On that.
Yeah, and for the DCED application, it's really contingent upon legislative support. And Simone Collins is the expert in getting that. There's actually a panel, and all 5 members of that panel have to vote in our favor in order for us to get it. So it's a matter of us utilizing our legislators to our advantage, and they would have to go lobby on our behalf. Simone Collins does this all the time. We do not. So having them in our corner to work on this really just increases our chances. So we could potentially, we're seeking $500,000 total in grant money here. And Simone Collins, with their expertise, we may be able to get both, which would mean the $250 that we set aside for the match that we had set aside last year, and it's all budgeted for, we planned for it in the budget this year as part of this application, because we knew we wanted to resubmit it. But there's a potential for us, if we get both grants, that we could get $500,000 from the state. We have another $250 that would really give us a lot of, a huge ability to do a lot of improvements in our parks that are really needed.
Thank you. Others? What's that? We didn't make a motion yet. I didn't know if anyone had. Oh,
I have a question.
Need a more.
Okay.
I have a question.
I just clarify.
Yep, that's fine. These are new things.
Well, I guess my question is that Simone Collins last year, I believe our fee was slightly over $13,000, and we did not go back to the buck. Do you know what type of competition there are for these? I understand the grant writing is kind of a science, but that's a lot of money out the door.
So the feedback we got last year from the DCNR application, when we did not get it, it just was a really competitive year. Our application was good. We worked closely with our representative at DCNR. So really, it was just a matter of, there were a lot of applications last year, so not everything got funded.
It's an election year this year, so it'll be more likely to be one election. If you have March,
As far as because it looks like we would need the $300,000 or so that we would need if we got both grants, that is set aside already?
Yes.
That is in the budget. And then, do we have a defined plan of what would happen in Farming Ridge and Pineland Park?
Yep. It's a requirement.
Okay,
Yep.
so it's,
We did all that part. All right.
I'll make a motion to approve the.
I have a question.
Some Collins to prepare and submit DCED and DCNR Parks grants applications.
That's second.
You have one question, one quick question?
Yes. This is quick. Simone Collins is an associate of Granger. Why are we using them? We should be getting someone else to do
Associate
this.
of
for.
many different townships.
Yes. And where you are, you know, we do, I think this board, we are looking at using more local companies and other things.
Yes.
Some of the things that are already engaged, not that we have to go into this discussion, but I would just say that, hey, this process was started a year ago. They're pretty far down the road. If we start over, you know, they have the influence. So.
First and second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Next is to adopt the actual resolutions one.
Okay, to adopt the resolution for the DCNR application.
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution authorizing submission of application to DCNR for Pineland and Farming Ridge Park improvements. Simone Collins.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Adopt the resolution for the DCED application for Pineland Park and Farming Ridge Park.
I move that we adopt the resolution authorizing submission of application to DCD for Pineland Park and Farming Ridge Park improvements.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Consider request from the Boy Scout Troop 319 to utilize the upper parking lot of the Township Property for their Easter flower sale on between April 8th and April 11th.
So just that, the Boy Scout troop has come forward and they would like to use the upper parking lot. This would be the parking lot that is right, right above the EMS building. They want to utilize the space because they're doing a fundraiser there. They would have a tent for flower sale. This is the first time that we have seen a request to use Township Property for such an event. So I don't have any precedent to share with you. So just bring it forward to see what you guys want to do.
And I guess I would come maybe further that, I don't know, if maybe I missed it, Michelle, but apparently they would offer a certificate of insurance, and if we would approve this, it would be based on a release, harmless release from our insurance company.
So if they request the permit, which is the next step, yes, they would be required to provide a certificate of insurance at that point. We would say that if you decide that you want to approve this request, that you do so with the consideration of review by our insurance company.
I'll make the motion for them to utilize the upper lot of the Township Property for the Easter flower sale, April 8th to 11th.
I'll second it.
Pending, okay, sorry. Pending insurance review.
Pending insurance review.
No problem.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Michelle second.
Was Michelle?
Michelle, did you second this? Okay, Michelle second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Next one is considering a permit fee waiver. I believe they're putting up a tent which requires
Yes, there's approximately $700 that comes with the permit fees for putting up a tent for sale. When you see flower sales, that's what the township does charge. So the Boy Scout troop has come forward and asked for a waiver of this fee so that they can be considered not having to pay it for this year.
Are there any other nonprofit organizations doing this?
Will, can you answer that question? I know you issue the permits.
I'm not aware of any other nonprofits doing it, but this is the standard practice, like firework tent or flower tent down in Boss Cobb's or other shopping centers.
The fee is waived by the board when it's a nonprofit, is that what you're saying is the example?
I have not encountered this process of someone asking for a waiver.
Okay, that's the first.
We have for fireworks.
Right, but not for flower sales.
Well, for selling flower, I would guess if they're paying a $700 fee, they might not make much profit.
They won't.
It is quite.
I'll make a motion to waive the fee for Boy Scout Troop 319 for their flower sale, held April 8th through April 11th.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
I think it's the right thing to do. I mean, you've got kids out here raising money, and their entire profit end up being for a zoning permit. Again, I just don't think it's the right thing to do.
My only concern was I just wanted to be fair to all the nonprofits.
Consistent.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Consider approving the proposal from CTN Solutions for the 3 server replacements in the amount of $33,922.22.
Just that, Chief, do you want to chime in on this one?
Absolutely. So the police service for police department, they're operating currently on Windows 2008. They have reached their end of life Microsoft support for security updates and bug fixes, which present security risk. We received our last security update last month, so this is something that needs to be addressed here immediately. The price that was quoted was for 3 servers, which are our Windows server for our domain controller, our Exchange server, and our Kodi server, which operates our records management system for the police department.
Thank you, Chief.
And this is a budgeted item.
It is a budget item, sir.
It's coming out of the capital fund.
Okay.
I will make,
I move that we approve the proposal from CTN Solutions in the amount of $33,922.22 for the 3 server and installation.
I'll second.
any further discussion?
Is the room okay with the there? I know there was a concern with that. Will that?
Yes, that has resolved the
That will change
matter.
nothing, yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Consider approving a proposal from CTN Solutions for $22,143.97 for a replacement of 12 computers for the police department.
Again, Mr. Chairman, some of the computers in the police department are extremely old, in excess of 10 years old. This is to replace the computers that are currently operating under Windows 7, which no longer receive updates, and to include, will be updated to new computers that'll be compliant with Microsoft Office 2019.
And again, this is a budget, the budget.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
I'm going to be supportive of this motion, but the computers are 10 years old?
Yes, sir.
I just, somewhere down the line, we need to have a regular replacement plan so that we have a fixed cost every year, so that these guys should not, we're wasting their time. There's no way these computers are working fast enough. We're paying them to sit and watch a computer try to work. We've got to address that down the road in terms of budget. A 10-year-old computer is an inefficient way to operate.
Did we vote on this?
We did.
We did that. We had a first and a second, I believe. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Authorize advertisement for the March 9th and March 23rd, 2020 Board of Supervisor meetings.
We're hoping the board is okay with the fact that we'd like to have both the March meetings here at the Reading Country Club. That allows us to do just one advertisement for the month of March, so we'd like to do that, and we're looking for authorization for that advertisement.
Make the motion to authorize advertisement for the March 9th and March 23rd, 2020 meetings at 7 p.m. at the Reading Country Club.
I'll second.
Saves us money.
Any further discussion?
I know that we are looking into be able to hear our voices a little bit better, and if not, I know that Ms. Riley had talked about possibly using one of the smaller rooms just so everyone can hear. So it's just something, still at the Reading Country Club, but if we cannot get the microphones worked out, we may want to move it to a smaller location that does fit the number, that way everyone can hear.
Okay. I was going to ask Larry to comment.
Yeah, so Larry and Derek have both been working on this process, so I thank them for the extra time they put in. So Derek, do you want to chime in on the microphone?
Just that we're working with a company that helps set up the stereo system that we have over there. We're looking to see how we can get 5 remote bikes spread out throughout the board, so we're just waiting to hear back from what they have to say. We talked to them late last week, so.
Great, thank you.
Very good. And I think it's better. Each meeting a little better, we're making progress, so thank you. All right, everyone working on that. Yes. Do we have a motion?
First, we have a second.
I made the motion.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Authorize the purchase of 2 police vehicles in the amount of $55,649.53 each.
Gotta love that specific. Larry, do you want to chime in on this one?
Well, the one vehicle is going to replace car 11, which has been out of service since August of last year, which was an 09 Dodge Charger with a blown engine. We had approval from the previous board last year to have it taken to the junkyard. And the other car is a 2007 Ford Crown Vic with 146,000 miles on it. That is technically on life support right now. So that's the 2 cars we're looking to replace.
Thank you, and again,
And these were both
budgeted.
obviously planned.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep, both are budgeted items. This is again car 6 and car 11. And as you can tell from the service and the miles and the age on these cars, it's definitely time for them to be replaced for the safety of our officers.
I'll make the motion to purchase 2 police vehicles at $55,649.53 each.
Second.
Any further discussions?
Just for clarification, what kind of car costs $55,000?
Police?
It is the Ford Explorer, and it's actually government pricing. So it's basically not a fully loaded Ford Explorer. It is equipped for just police stuff. It has the heavier suspension, which we would need for our police officers. There's actually an option that is on this one, that if anybody would sneak up on the police car, the windows will go up. Like if somebody came up behind the police officer, the windows will go up and the doors will lock, and also alert the officer that somebody is behind him, which is another safety factor that we have.
And keep in mind, sir, these also include things like the light package and the badging on the
Right.
outside of the vehicle that has to be put on.
Right, decals, radios, sirens, everything. And that's out the door. I mean, this price is out the door per car. But it's also, like I said, government pricing, so it's also a cheaper price. Technically, the car is like $48,000, then we add up all the stuff that we need for the police. We put in there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Any other comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Consider approving application for local economic revitalization tax assistance for 35 West 47th Street.
Mr. Chairman, the township did adopt the LERTA program in 2015. The purpose is to encourage improvements in commercial properties with tax incentive. 35 West 47th Street, which is the new Mama's Pizza restaurant, has submitted a LERTA application. They're looking for review and do they actually, will tell me what action they need to take before it goes to the county?
The board just needs to approve signing the application, and we send the application with the building permits to the county, and then they do their assessment.
Okay, thank you.
The school district has a separate application, and the applicant needs to go through.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any precedent? Has this happened much over the last 4 years?
It does not.
5 years?
No.
And I believe it's a declining benefit.
That is correct. Yep, it's stacked over time, yes.
Will, is it, because it's in the LERTA zone, are you mandated to approve? Did it need to be brought up during the zoning application or anything like that?
Before we send the building permits off to the assessment office, the county assessment office, we send the application, the LERTA application with it, just to say that it has been approved by the Exeter Township. So they can assess it at whatever that assessment value may be. So say the property right now is worth $100,000, and they want to do, a restaurant is another $100,000. They'll keep that first year assessment at just $100,000, and then 10% increase over a 10-year period per year.
Thank you.
So the purpose is to encourage investment in the community.
That's correct.
So we need a motion or any further discussion? We need a motion.
I move that we approve the application for LERTA for 35 West 47th Street.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Just one question, well, is it just pizza or is it the pizza and the laundromat? Because he wanted pizza and the laundromat.
It's just the restaurant.
Just a restaurant, okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm opposed. I don't think this is that property is really a commercial property, and I think that where it's located, that it's going to cause many problems. It's busy. 47th Street is very busy and turning. I'm just afraid of the safety of the business.
I guess just following up on that subject of this, we finished that, it's 4-1, one opposed. I guess, just first I saw this resolution, so I think this would be something for the board in the future, or maybe with Will or whatever, to review, what zones benefit this type of investment. I think you have to, once you have this on the books, people can apply for it. So it's a question of whether or not we want to address that in the future, would be a future topic.
Well, it's county-wide, so we have
Oh, it
to
is?
see, yes, we have to see if we're allowed to limit it to certain zoning districts or not.
Well, I believe, Michelle, I looked at the map. No, Will, can you correct? It's a very small area that I saw in the map that appeared to be in the zone. Is that correct?
I do not believe that's correct. I believe there are many parcels that were adopted in 2015 as the attachment to the ordinance itself.
We can certainly have a review and comment brought forward to the board for another meeting, if you'd like to review it.
Good, yeah, beneficial, because, I guess the intention of it should be to develop certain areas of the community.
Improve the area, but this is just such a bad place to begin with.
Yeah, we want to have the correct targeted areas. Very good, thank you. Highway Department report.
Thank you. Okay, just for an information thing, this is really not highway, but the Radio Shack is part of the streetscape work that's going to be done with the sidewalks and the entrance going into that mall. It's a $500,000 project. Since that has to be tore down, we offered, I talked to the chief about this to see if he's interested. He said he was going to talk to the SWAT team about doing, maneuvers, whatever you want to call them, in the building. And then after they're done with it, his fire company would be interested in doing things in it. And they also are interested. So it's just, we may as well get some use out of it before we tear it down. So he said, I think the chief said tomorrow, I guess you're talking to him.
Yeah, I have a meeting with the county CERT team to discuss that, if they want to use it maybe for entries or entry
Just
practice.
informational.
I think we're all able to hear you guys talking.
Just want to give you information, just so you're updated on that, so you know that, before we move into the next part, which is to bid that out to be torn down. So, all right? As far as the highway department, they've been doing a lot, they're still doing a lot of catch basin work, pipe work. They were on Lorraine Road today, changing, repairing a piece of pipe. A lot of tree work, especially in areas where we're going to be doing paving. That's continuing. We did sign an agreement with CMS to help some of our paving projects, the bigger ones. They were just like we did last year. We also had 2 sales. The 96 Chevy pickup truck sold for $2,900, and the irrigation pump sold for $4,100. That's it for us.
I have a question for you. The bridge project, Gibraltar down Shelbourne, is that scheduled for this summer, 2020? I was asked that myself.
It gets it out this year. You might not start it.
You mean Gibraltar and Shelbourne? Is that official? I thought it was 21.
Yeah, but I think they're talking about bidding it out this year.
You mean the light gray?
Yeah.
But I think the work takes place in 2021.
2021.
The
Work takes place in 2021. Met Ed asked. That's,
Oh,
yeah, I think they're letting it bid later in the year.
Yeah, they let the bid out this year, but it won't. You're not gonna see it.
It's a year away. Next year.
Yep.
Good. Chief?
Not much. Officer Fox from the department received a award for Pennsylvania Aggressive Driving Award. It's a program that, I think I can hear me. It's a program that works with the police department in targeting drivers who are aggressively driving, following too closely, speeding. Officer Fox won a reward for his enforcement efforts in that area. Also, the department received an award for other officers who have participated in the program. One quick thing I'd like to remind residents, please don't leave your keys in your vehicle when you park your vehicles overnight. We had a vehicle that was stolen because the keys were left in. Long gone are the days when we used to be able to keep our doors open and our keys in our cars. We can't do that anymore. Please, once you park your vehicle, if you could just make sure you take your keys out of the car. Thank you.
Joe, engineer report?
Yes, I have two items for this evening. One, an update on our Norfolk Southern bridge project. The contractor moved out of the area, has completed all the stormwater work, the concrete retaining wall, sidewalk, and associated other improvements. However, the paving was not started due to the temperature and the availability of asphalt material from our local plants. That should probably happen hopefully late March if we continue with this warm spell. Those plants may open up a little bit earlier, so that paving has not been completed. Followed by any pavement markings and signage is also required. But everything is put to grade, it turned out very well. We'll just have to wait until they have the paving contractor come in there and complete the work. And once the work's completed, then we'll be in a position that we can reopen that road. The second item, we were approached by the previous developer, which is Buddy's Nursery on the Fairview Chapel area. We have several roads that we actually own and maintain, and we also receive liquid fuels. Clara Drive, Dolphin Place, Philadelphia Terrace, and a small portion of Sunset Manor. These streets the township has been maintaining. We have documentation that we receive liquid fuels from the state. However, the developer or Buddy's Nursery are paying taxes on these roadways. Not sure why. We believe that maybe some of these streets were never officially recorded in the courthouses when the ordinance plans were done, which could have happened. We believe that at least one or two of them may not have. I'm looking for permission from the board to see if I can work with the solicitor and trying to see what our easiest solution could be, contacting the county and see if we can have this corrected so that's taken off the tax rolls, since these are streets that we previously are already own and maintain, see what options we have. I'm hoping maybe we could just simple letter would be suffice, but until we get a better idea, they requested that we could see what we could do to correct this problem. I would try to do it at minimal cost. Obviously, if we have to do more, I would report back to the board and and inform on what our options are. There's no dispute that we don't own them, maintain them, if for whatever reason they're paying taxes on them.
Is that an issue that could go back? We have to run that.
No. Probably the worst case scenario, we might have to reaffirm according to the roadway, because the ordinance plans, we found some evidence that the ordinance plans were prepared. However, they may never have been taken into the courthouse for sure.
Everyone's been satisfied, it's just for some reason they're not reporting us.
Do you need a motion on that?
Yes.
I'll make that motion. What was,
Motion to coordinate with the solicitor and see what options we can resolve the issue of having contacted the tax claim bureau to have them removed from the tax rolls for paying taxes on these streets.
Did you get that, Laura?
I'll make the motion to work with the solicitor to work on removing them from the tax rolls for those roadways.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Ayes have it.
Thank you. That's
And
all
I think Mike and Clarence, I think, Never Seen Road, I think you put up a gate or something.
Oh, what's
You want to comment on that?
On East Nelsing?
Yeah, underpass?
Since they're just about ready to open it, and we do have flooding down there, we always did, and we're going to continue to have flooding, even though they put a new underpass in there. We put in a gate on both sides, a swing gate that if it starts, we start having flooding issues, we just swing the gate out and lock it open until such time as the water goes down, and we can open it up again. It's nothing, it's not high tech, it's just a light.
Very good.
Came out real nice, though, it works real well.
Good. Solicitor report.
No report this evening.
Manager report.
No report this evening.
Public comment. Thank you. Mr. Hughes.
Just a couple of things I'd like to talk about at the end of this meeting. I have a clipboard here. If there's anyone in this room that wasn't able to hear any portion of the deliberations here, I'm going to ask you to sign this for me, so that if we have enough people interested, they'll improve our audio system. Now, I want to talk about the golf course and High Associates and Mr. Hirsch. So I tried to get it in there at the end of the comment section where Mr. Hirsch was talking, but they did a presentation. I have it on the video on exeterunited.com. And it appears that we contracted with High Associates to market our golf course and country club. And they sent out over 7,000 feelers to different organizations that might be interested in buying it, or developing it, or managing it. And of course, we got back 4 or 5 responses. High Associates, if you didn't know it, they subcontracted the work to Hirsch. So these two organizations work together. And they didn't tell us at the town hall meeting, there were a lot of negative comments about the property. In fact, Mr. Gillette, is your name right, Mr. Gillette?
Close enough.
Okay. He brought up about the one golf club who mentioned $3 or $5 million investment to fix this place up. And there were quite a few other negatives that the folks here never got to hear about. So I just want to make everyone aware of that. Then finally, I'll wrap it up, it's been a long night. We're still looking for the podium. It's missing. The latest information I got is that it's been destroyed. Now, you may not have this podium thing, but the podium is a township asset. It's worth about $2,000 if you try to buy an old podium like that. So, none of our officials are interested in figuring out what happened. Mr. Staub, his election promise was it would be back in the room, the first meeting that he attended as a supervisor. So, we can play the game, we'll keep playing the game until we find out what's going. Someone will eventually realize that this is township assets, it's over $500, in fact, closer to $2,000. And, well, hopefully someone will investigate. Thank you.
Thank you. John? Just John.
I took my Trump hat off because I didn't want to get shot at. My name is John Dominicus, I live at 6220 Kirkland Avenue, and I've been there for 70 years. So I'm not a newcomer. But I'm going to say one thing for sure. I have a copy of your ordinance here that I got. And I have one question, only one question. And what worries me mostly is, by your definition, you have in here that 422 is considered to be a highway commercial district to be used for the following purposes. And you have 44 purposes listed in this paper. Now, it also says on here that you have to have utility water and utility sewer. I don't have it. I don't have either. But 5 businesses next to me, they don't have it either. Now, if I can't sell my property because it doesn't have water or sewer, then I'm going to lose about $100,000 on my farm. Now, I don't think it's right that you can pass an ordinance that directly affects me, and I have nothing to say. Now, my thing is, do I ignore that? You're going to say, well, we don't own the sewer department anymore. We sold that. That might be true. But you wrote this when you owned it. So that means I'm responsible to go by it. Now, can you tell me that I can ignore that section of this ordinance because you don't own it anymore? Or is the water company going to come after me and say, oh, they passed that ordinance, you have to abide by it? Now, anyone who's sitting up there, do you have a house anywhere that don't have water and sewer? I've been asking for water and sewer for 40 years. There are 5 houses away from me in one direction and 3 houses away in the other direction. I have water and sewer. I have a well. I could have sold my property to horses. They came down and they said, oh, you got a lot of property, you got big frontage. That's great, that's good. Where do you get the water from? I said, I have a well. Boom, I was handing that. Businesses won't get in the well because they're afraid of contaminated water. Because, what the hell is his name? The guy who dumped down there at landfill? Piper. Piper contaminated that whole section one time in the yard. They had to come in and dig them all new wells. So I did. Am I responsible for this ordinance? That's all I want to know. Quick question, and I'll be out of here.
Yeah, it's probably best to speak with our zoning person, Mr. Will Bruger. You could probably
I
offline.
consider your property pre-existing non-conforming.
Yes, you gotta say that loud, but I'm not here.
Well, why don't you?
Yeah, you could probably meet with them specifically. You could probably meet with him. He'll be able to help you, I think.
Okay.
I don't think anyone at this table will be able to help you with that specific issue.
Are you chief?
Yes, sir.
Well, thank you for your help tonight.
Thank you. No problem. No problem.
Today, he had a rescue me. Okay, I'll talk to him. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Riley?
Sorry, it's me again. I just was wondering about the town hall that you have scheduled for Wednesday. What are you going to discuss about other options? Is that what you're going to discuss? Options to service electric?
No. It's a very good question, but most of us don't have any other option. So it's really talking about some of the issues with Service Electric I don't know if anyone else would comment here, but, you know, there's things that we can include in the contract that they have to live by, quality of service and other things. But we don't have any other providers.
It's a follow-up from them.
Yeah, it's a follow-up from the November meeting, basically, where there's certain provisions in there with them reporting complaints, you know, performing up to a certain standard for our for the residents and everything else. So it's really about the creation of a long-term agreement with them.
I see, okay. I just wanted clarification. And are you going to be having a town hall meeting to discuss the promenade? Is that on the agenda at some point?
I would guess that we would, definitely. It's not on the agenda yet,
Okay,
but yes.
okay, thank you.
And we're not having any discussions right now amongst ourselves on the promenade. We're working up to that, I would say. I don't know if any other supervisors have any comment on that, but I would guess we would have a town hall.
When we're ready for it.
Yeah, when we're ready.
Did you have a town hall before you bought it? I wasn't as involved because I got treated rather poorly by the previous board, so.
No, I don't believe, we did not have a town hall.
Yeah, we had many meetings.
Meetings,
for over
but
2
not town
years.
hall.
Yeah.
No specific town hall. We said we could do a town hall once we bought it. And then
Yeah, it was part of the regular supervisors meetings, but it was not no town hall.
It's been, it was talked
That's
about
too bad.
many years. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor reports. Any volunteers? Mr. Galtier.
Yeah, I just want to give everyone an update on the Communications Committee. We had our first meeting. I thought it was very successful. We had 7 citizens there, in addition to Michelle Kirscher, Michelle Gilbert, Laurie, and I. The very positive discussion. We brainstormed areas where we can improve. We'll get that information to the website soon. One thing that did come out of the meeting, to compliment Mr. Hughes, is that we now have a suggestion box in the back of the room, which that was he suggested the suggestion box, so we now have that in place. And then the other committee, the RCC Restaurant Committee, Michelle Kirscher and I will be meeting with Derek Sandritter tomorrow just to start talking about what the facility's capable of and so forth.
Very good, thank you. Ms. Gertrude?
I'm looking forward to tomorrow for us to start working on this. And I also would like us to start making up a list, of what the residents think and what's the number 1 to 5 of our priorities in the township. Because we have so many things that have to be accomplished, I'd like to see what the residents think are the most important, so we can start working on them first. So you can drop it in the suggestion box, you can email it down to the township. Whoever made up the agenda, thank you for putting your email address on, that's a nice addition, and also the way that you put the little summary of what it was, I think that will help. So we're trying to make some improvements here, and thank you all for coming tonight. I think this is nice. We do need to get a better speaker system then.
They're working on it.
Okay. And have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
I'm good.
You're good, John? Joe?
Yes. I would like to announce that we will have our first golf committee meeting on Tuesday night, March 10th at 6 o'clock at this location. Michelle, do I need a motion?
Yes, please. Motion to advertise.
Want me to make it? Like, move that we advertise a meeting for the golf committee, 6 p.m. on 3/10/2020 at the Reading Country Club.
You second that?
Yeah, with Joe and I spoke before the meeting.
Okay, so you're second.
Yes.
it was March 10th. March 10th, 6 p.m. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it.
And in conjunction with that, we'll meet, initially it will be John, myself, Gary, and Brian, and then we would like to have as many community members come out to share their feedback. One of the things that we'll be doing initially is working with Derek and Brian to get kind of the next couple of years of what does the club need. You know, we talked about some things this evening. Also, too, one of the reasons, I know Mr. Hughes had brought it up, and I will fall on that sword. I did say about the having a podium, but one of the things I said was I wanted to have a podium. I don't want to inhibit anyone speaking, public speaking sometimes, especially people, and they do need that podium. It's one of the reasons we moved it over here because of the podium. So, regardless of where we have the meeting, I want us to have a podium.
And there it is.
There it is.
Thank you, Joe. Just one quick comment. This is following up on Mrs. Riley's comment. Actually, it was about the service electric meeting. I know we have some conflicts here. There's not going to be any action. It's public forum. We were trying to get service electric and all the representatives here. Just want to have a quick chat about this because apparently the service electric representative is not available on Wednesday. The attorney that was negotiating the agreement with us is not available, and a couple of the supervisors, one, myself namely, not available for Wednesday, so we won't all be there, but it's not deliberation. But I think it would be important to have the right representatives there to talk about the agreement. So I'm in favor of postponing or rescheduling the meeting. If you don't have the right people there, there's no...
Yeah, we need service electric there, it's useless meeting. We need service electric there, period.
So I'm going to make a motion to table that meeting and reschedule that when the correct people are available.
A second.
Second, any further discussion? Ms. Riley?
Maybe you could post that on next door so that people see it.
You can do that, you're better at this.
So when we reschedule it, you mean? You're saying?
Yeah.
When we reschedule it.
I've been posting when we have the meetings. I don't know how many people see it.
So yeah, I think it's as important to get that agreement correct and have the right people there to explain it. We're not experts, so.
How do you get it out there to let people know that we're postponing?
It's a good question. We'll have to post it on the website.
Facebook account.
Yeah. I don't know, however, Lori, many places you can post it.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah.
You should be able to put a banner up on the website.
Put it at the corner.
That is coming up soon. We need some support to update our website, and we are going to be talking about that very soon when we get some capable people that can do that. No further issues?
We didn't vote, did we?
You did first and second.
First and second. Oh, sorry. All those in favor for postponement? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Mr. Galti, thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. I'll second that. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Ayes have it.
After 2 hours. This is crazy. No, you can't blame censors.
Just checking.